Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast, where today we're going over UFC 297, Strickland versus Duplessis. First things first, make sure you give this video a like, hit the subscribe button, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There is a Stats and Stacks podcast. First and foremost, I'd like to apologize for the panic last week. He had lost one of our locks in Manel Cop due to weight cutting issues. So we quickly just kind of pivoted to Ricky Simone, which was a terrible look. Should have just stayed away to begin with. Mario Batista's 58% takedown defense turned into 100% against Ricky Simone. We knew to stay away. We panicked and pivoted, and it was a bad pivot. Luckily, Joshua Van came through for us again, our original lock, so that was perfectly fine. It was an all right week. A lot of those lines were steamed because of the big break, and some of these got steamed as well. Some of these lines are just not what they should be, so it's a matter of picking it out. You're gonna have to eat some chalk, but at some point you're gonna have to take some shots on some dogs with the way that this is just lining up. So it's an interesting card. Don't forget that it's in Canada. There's gonna be it's not the greatest card on paper, but there's Canadians littered all throughout this card. So keep the judging in mind, keep the crowd in mind, and it's gonna be a tricky one to get away with. It's kind of a tough card. But it is what it is. It's a pay-per-view. Let's get after it. First fight of the night. We have Greece right off of the bat. We are looking at Malcolm. Excuse me, not feeling the greatest today, but we're going to soldier through. Malcolm X Gordon is a minus 165 favorite. Yeah, Malcolm Gordon is a favorite. Going up against Jimmy the Brick Flick at plus 140. Over under sitting at 1.5 in this flyweight matchup. Over 1.5 is minus 105. Under 1.5 minus 125. The reason for the under being 1.5 in a flyweight matchup is because of both of them. Both their durability is ass. Uh, Gordon's striking is okay. His wrestling's okay. His jujitsu is actually sneaky good. His cardio's not terrible. He's gonna have the Canadian crowd behind him. He is the Canadian in this matchup. And yes, he has 7 career losses, but they're the good competition. I mean, he lost to Muhammad Makayev. He lost to Jake Hadley, well, it is what it is. He lost to Amir Albazi. Like, these guys are good fighters. So it's not like he's just losing to nobodies, but his wins are against Dennis Bondar and Francisco Figueroa. He doesn't have any good wins. So he has good losses, no good wins. He likes to pressure forward a ton. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here, which is super nice. The main problem with him is that he's hittable, and he has one of the worst chins in UFC. Like he might have the worst chin in the flyweight division. There's not a lot of people that have a worse chin than him, and we went through this last week with Phil Hawes. Even if they're the better fighter, if they have a bad chin, you're most likely going to lose. You can't be in a fist fight not be able to take a punch. It just doesn't work. The only good news for Malcolm Gordon is that he's fighting Jimmy Flick, who might have the second worst chin in the weight class. I said I don't know if Malcolm has the worst because Jimmy might have the worst. It's very, very close. Neither one of these guys can take a punch. Glass jaws. But Jimmy has phenomenal jiu-jitsu. It's very, very top of the food chain jiu-jitsu. His striking's not good. He'll show a few Muay Thai fights in his career, but he didn't win them. He's not good at striking. His wrestling is not good. It's not a good wrestler. He's very hittable as well, and he throws extremely low volume, like an embarrassingly low amount of volume in his fights. His cardio also not the greatest. And his takedown defense is atrocious, but that's because he wants you to take him down because he'd rather be on guard than have to take any hits on the feet, to be honest with you. The worst part about him is that he retired momentarily and then it came back to MMA last year. So I don't like that. If you already have retirement in your mind, that's not a good look. So he has bad cardio. He has no chin. He's mentally checked out. Why would you bet on him? I don't. I don't want to, but I don't want to trust Malcolm Gordon, who might have an even worse chin. So, do you just bet the under? That's what most people are doing, are hammering that under. I don't. You know what I think I'm going to take? I think I'm going to take the over 1.5. And hear me out. Neither one of these guys have knockout power. They're not great strikers. Malcolm's okay, but he does not carry a ton of power. And Malcolm is going to be in front of his home crowd, and he's coming off of 2 losses. The last time Malcolm Gordon came off of 2 losses, he came out there and grapple fucked Francisco Ferrero. Like he went out there, or Figueroa, he went out there and just wrestled and stayed safe. He didn't go for any submissions. It was position over submission. Is he going to be in a little bit of hot water if he goes out there with the grapple heavy approach against Jimmy Flick? Yeah, because Jimmy Flick is not an MMA fighter. Jimmy Flick is a jiu-jitsu practitioner who is moonlighting in MMA. However, Malcolm Gordon is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. Malcolm Gordon has been submitted a few times, but he's been submitted usually later on in the fight. He can stay safe for a while. So at that point, as long as he can stay safe and he's going to go out there and pressure and grapple, I'm all for it, baby. So I'm going to get risky. I don't trust either one of their chins. But I might just take the over here. I don't know if this fight goes the distance, but it's only lined at 1.5, and it's leaning towards plus money for the over 1.5 with both these guys who just don't really finish anybody outside of grappling, and they're both jiu-jitsu black belts. So let's hope the black belts cancel out and he just lay in praise for a round and a half. So the pick is going to be Gordon, especially with the crowd, and I think the bet's going to be the over 1.5. It's risky, but it just makes sense. Next fight of the night is one I actually liked. However, I hate how much the line got steamed. We have Jasmine Juice Vicious at minus 375 going up against Priscilla Cachoeira at plus 295. Over 2.5 minus 165, under 2.5 plus 130. Let's just start with the Canadian again and Jasmine Jazz Vicious. She's not good. She's actually very, very bad. But she's big and she bullies people. She has a 3-inch reach advantage in this matchup. She's not a good wrestler, but she's pretty physically strong. She's long and lanky, but has some power with her. Her striking's not good, but it's definitely been improving. It's a little robotic, a little stiff, but I've definitely seen some improvements, especially in her last fight against Tracy Cortez. I thought Tracy was going to walk right through her, and it was at least competitive, which was impressive. She also takes a beating. Natalia Silva beat the shit out of her. Tracy Cortez had her with some pretty clean shots. I mean, she is pretty durable. And she's hittable, don't get me wrong, that's not good. But she will continue to go forward even when you're hitting her. She'll also have the crowd behind her. She's one of the Canadians on the card early in the night. They will be hype behind her. And yes, she has 3 career losses, but they're the good people. Elise Reed is in the UFC, and that was a split decision, and it was pretty suspect. I thought Jasmine won. Natalia Silva is a top 10 girl right now. Tracy Cortez is a top 10 girl right now. Those are her only losses. Miranda Maverick's a great win, and she did that in Canada. She looked the greatest she ever looked the last time the UFC was in Canada. Hopefully she repeats that. And the big one here, Gabriela Fernandez was a big, jacked Brazilian who hit super, super hard that has pretty suspect jujitsu and bad takedown defense. That's exactly what Priscilla Cachoeira is. Priscilla Cachoeira carries a ton of power. She hits extremely hard. But first and foremost, we're not even certain she's gonna even make weight. She misses weight just as much as she makes weight. So we don't know if this fight's even gonna fucking happen. She's 35 years old, so she's getting nothing but older. She's rocking a 65% takedown defense, and it's getting progressively worse. They're striking. Although that's what she wants to do is just stand and bang with you because she hits so damn hard. She's not a good striker. She's robotic herself. They call her the zombie girl because that's exactly how she fights. She marches forward, she lets you hit her, and she just tries to land one big one. You can hit her 6 times as long as she can land one. She will eat it and keep going forward. She's pretty durable. I'll give her that. But that 65% takedown defense, when you get her down to the ground, she's a fish out of water. Miranda Maverick was able to submit her. We saw Jillian Robertson submit her. We saw Valentina Shevchenko. Granted, she's the GOAT. She submitted her. When you get her down to the ground, she doesn't know what to do. Molly Meatball McCann is like a 5'1" British boxer, and she took her down with ease. So that's very, very, very concerning. She can't wrestle to save her life, and she's going against someone who can't really strike, who only wrestles, and she has a vicious ground and pound. She's not really a jujitsu girl. So this is where I think I get a little wild. I think Jasmine wins by decision and just grapple fucks her, or she takes her down and she just ground and pounds the mess out of her. And we saw her go for a crucifix in that Gabriel Fernandez fight. And again, Gabriella, and Priscilla are the exact same carbon copy fighter. And we already saw Jasmine dominate. I think she does it again. She might get the finish this time, and I think it would be a TKO. So at that point, do you want to get greedy or do you want to just take Jasmine? I'll take the juice at minus 375. But I might, this sounds crazy. I might get on one of those. I know DK has it. Some of those props where it's one or the other. I might hop on a decision or KO prop for Jasmine. I think it's very, very live here. I like Jasmine. The pick is Jasmine. The bet's going to be Jasmine. Next fight of the night is going to go. It's really confusing me. This is one of them I'm scared of the most on the card. We have Johan Lioness at minus 150 going up against Sam Patterson at plus 125. Over under is also at 1.5. Over 1.5 is plus 130. Under 1.5 minus 165. And real quickly, as I'm looking at it, I am so sorry. The under for the Jasmine and Cachoeira fight is plus 130. That's the way to attack that. Because say Priscilla goes out there and accidentally catches her with something early, you would cash the under. If Jasmine goes out there and does get a ground and pound finish, you cash the under. So bet the under. So the pick is Jasmine. The bet is the under 2.5. But in regards to the Lioness and Patterson fight, this is scary. This is sheer power going against cardio. Let's just start with the Canadian. Let's stick with that train here. We have Johan Lioness, who is god awful. He is not good. He's going to have the crowd behind him. He is Canadian. He carries a ton of power. Out of his 9 wins, I think they're all by KO. Let's see. Darian Weeks was his first decision, and it was a split decision. I don't think he won that. I thought that was one of the worst robberies of the year, to be honest with you, back in 2022. But outside of that, all the rest of his wins, outside of one, are by knockout. So he has 9 wins, 7 of them are by knockout. He hits extremely hard. That's the only redeeming quality he has. He doesn't have good jiu-jitsu. He doesn't have good wrestling. He throws a very, very, very low volume. He's very hittable on the feet, and he has terrible cardio. Not only does he throw low volume, he can't do it for a substantial amount of time. And he himself has addressed his cardio, saying, I gas out all of the time. I have an issue. We have fixed it. I have worked on it. Well, his solution to not gassing out is not throwing anything. He throws nothing. And you can't win a decision that way. It's not going to work. And even when he threw lower volume against Darian Weeks, I still think he lost. And he still got tired. Even though he threw half as much, he still got tired. So at the end of the day, he carries a ton of power. It only takes one for him to put the lights out. But the problem is he doesn't throw a lot of it, and he gets tired halfway through. And he can't do anything else. He's not a submission threat. He's not a wrestling threat. He's a one-dimensional power striker. On the other end, you have the complete opposite. You have Sam Patterson, who is notoriously chinny. So that's not good. The good news with Sam Patterson is that he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. He has sneaky good jiu-jitsu. It's actually pretty good. His striking's okay. He can get clipped a little. He's a little hittable. I don't like that. He's chinny and he's hittable. His wrestling, he doesn't really utilize it. I've seen him do a body lock once or twice, but outside of that, he doesn't really have a lot of wrestling. So he's someone that likes his jiu-jitsu. He has a ton of guillotine finishes, a few rear naked choke finishes. Like he's very, very good on the ground, but he doesn't wrestle. It's just he drops you and you get there, or you try to take him down and then he'll reverse or he'll snatch up a neck or something. It's very opportunistic. BJJ, but his striking's fine on the feet. The thing with him is that he's coming up a weight class, and I don't know if that's going to help him or hurt him because he only has 2 career losses, and they're both by first round KO. He's chinny, and I've seen him rock before in other fights. He gets rocked all the fucking time. He does not have a good chin. But is that because the dude is massive? I mean, he was making 155, and he is 6'3", so he is Jalen Turner size. Was that too much of a weight cut? That might have been. We saw it last week. Who was the kid I said stay away from because he's chinny? He's a young kid. He's Tom Nolan. Tom Nolan. I said I don't trust it. I do not trust it. He might get cracked. If he fights a power puncher, he's in trouble. And sure enough, 6'3", 155, it's too much fucking weight. Jalen Turner's also chinny. It's too much weight. Go up a weight class. And here's the thing. Sam Patterson's doing it. He's finally going up. So I don't know if Johan's going to be too big. He hits even harder and Sam's going to go out. Or maybe his chin can last a little with that extra 15 pounds, a little more water in the brain, and it helps him. If that's the case, Sam is going to whoop Johan's ass because Johan gasses after round one. And Sam Patterson is the world's slowest starter. I guarantee you he loses round one. But round 2 and 3, he drowns you. He doesn't stop pressuring. He doesn't stop throwing. His best weapon is his cardio. So Johan's best weapon is his power. His worst weapon is his cardio. Sam's best weapon is his cardio. His worst weapon is his chin. So I don't want to pick a side here. If anything, I'm saying doesn't go the distance because either Johan finishes it early or Sam finishes it late. You're gonna have to eat some chalk for that, but that's the only way to approach this. I'm gonna go ahead and pick Sam. I always will trust the cardio. That's the number one thing. That chin, man. Good Lord. I hope that I'm trusting that the move to 170 is going to help him. But if anything, I'm going to live bet Sam. So I'm going to pick Sam, and I'm either going to bet does not go the distance, or I'm going to wait until after Sam loses round one, and then smash that live button and just try to get better value on him. All right, next fight of the night is one where I completely flipped. We have Jillian Robertson at minus 250 going up against Polyana Viana at plus 205. Over 2.5 is plus 120, under 2.5 at minus 150. Let's start with the Canadian and Jillian Robertson. She's good, man. She's not great, but I do love the move down to 115. She was a stalwart at 125 for a while. Decided she's just too physically weak. She needs to drop a weight class. She thinks she can make the weight, and she's made it just fine her last 3 fights, and she's looked better at 115. I think she made the right move. Usually, dropping a weight class, you're like, oh, I don't know if this is good for her. Yeah, it has looked great for her. She looks much physically imposing. Her wrestling definitely looks better down at 115. Now, don't get me wrong. She still can't strike to save her life. She is one of the worst strikers I've ever seen in my life. But her jujitsu, she is a wet blanket. Like, she is very opportunistic. She will not, she is the definition of position over submission. But the moment you slip, she's snatching something. She is great on top. If she takes you down, you do not get up. She doesn't get sloppy. She doesn't ride too high. She doesn't fall off your back. If she gets on top of you, that is the round. You are not getting up. And that is going to be great for her because she has the crowd behind her too. They're not just going to boo and force a ref stand up. They're going to cheer any little ground and pound she does on the ground. They're going to cheer for her. She's going to be extra juiced, be a little more motivated for that takedown. Hell, I've seen her pull guard a few times just to get down to the ground and sweep you. Or she loves to pull guard, and then once you say I don't want to mess with your guard and stand up, she'll snatch your leg on the way up and finish a single. She absolutely loves that. She's just looked much better at 115, and she is a wet blanket. When she gets on top, that is it. She is a hammer on top. On the other side, we have Polyana Viana. And this is the thing. Polyana has a forward reach advantage here. She has an extreme striking advantage. Like, she's very good on the feet. She's very fast hands. She herself is pretty good jujitsu. And I thought this line was off. And I bet Polyana Viana. And I totally regret that bet. I think it was a big mistake on my part before doing fight tape. Because after I did fight tape, I knew her takedown defense was bad. Woo, brother. 45% or 43%. It's bad. Like, she does not know what a sprawl is. Like, if you shoot a double, she just goes down. She has no idea how to stuff a takedown. She can do a little bit with body locks, but I've never seen her stuff a single or a double. Literally, folk style wrestle this girl, she's going down. And that's all Jillian does. So if I wish I would have known that before betting this. And the other thing I don't like is that her fight IQ is horrid when she fought Tabitha Ricci herself. At that point, I'll give Tabitha credit. Her striking's gotten much better. She's exponentially better. However, at the point when she fought Tabitha Ricci back in 2022, Tabitha had zero striking whatsoever. She was just a jiu-jitsu girl. Polyana was smoking her on the feet, and she got taken down. When she got taken down, she did not get up. She played jiu-jitsu, and she has a really, really good armbar, and she believes in her armbar. And that's a mistake. We've seen it countless time again. If you have a huge advantage on the feet and someone takes you down, get the fuck up. Don't sit down there and play jujitsu with the jujitsu practitioner. I saw her do that with Tabitha Ricci. Her last fight against Lucindo took her down, and what did she do? Play jujitsu. She did not try to get up. She went for arm bars over and over and over. It's not going to happen. It's the UFC. It'll happen on the regional scene. It is not going to happen in the UFC. And what eventually happened? She lost because she played jujitsu with a jujitsu practitioner. Veronica Hardy armbarred her. Why the fuck are you going on the ground when you have a striking advantage? Hannah Cyphers. Well, she would kill Hannah Cyphers on the feet, but she played jujitsu. Like she always, if you take her down, has zero urgency to get up. Jillian Robinson has zero striking and will do anything to go down to the ground. This is terrible. I feel so bad about this bet. This is a terrible bet. Jillian Robinson should kill her. But again, Jill has terrible, terrible, terrible striking, and she does not have good wrestling. So I think it's good enough. That's the issue. I don't think you need good wrestling to take down Valiana Viana. So I think Jill's going to eventually get her down, and when she does, she's either going to finish her or she's just going to sit on top of her with ease. So the pick is going to be Jillian Robertson. The bet's going to be Jillian Robertson. Next fight of the night. It is a rematch. We have Series CD at minus 180 going up against Ramon Tavares at plus 150. Over under sitting at 1.5, and it's a straight pick 'em at minus 115. Let's start with the Canadian in Series City. CD is good, man. I think he's a pretty solid prospect. He has good striking. He's tall and lanky. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage in this matchup. He's going to have the crowd behind him, so everything he throws, the crowd is going to cheer. His jujitsu, it's not great, but it's okay. It's serviceable. It's there. His wrestling, it's not great, but I've seen him get a few body lock takedowns. It's there. He's been in some 5-round wars and he had solid cardio. There's really nothing to write home about him. He's kind of a generalist, but he's not bad anywhere. He's tall and like he always has a reach advantage and he knows how to use it. He'll paw at you, he'll throw some body kicks out there, he'll throw some really nice jabs out there. He'll occasionally go for a body lock takedown if he feels like he needs to steal the round. He has good fight IQ. He literally does nothing wrong. He doesn't pack a big punch. He has a few knockouts, but he's not necessarily a huge power puncher. Biggest issue with him, from what I saw, and also he's very durable. Because Mateo Vogel beat the shit out of him. He took him down and just wet blanketed him and beat the hell out of him on the ground. He didn't quit. He kept trying the entire 15 minutes, but he had a grappling deficiency. So to beat this guy, if you take him down and just hold him down, that is a winnable part here. The problem is Ramon Tavares doesn't do that. Ramon Tavares is a boxer. So at that juncture, you have a generalist going up against a one-dimensional boxer. Tavares does hit decently hard. He has multiple knockouts on his record. He knocked out Charles Crazy Horse Bennett. He knocked out his last Contender Series opponent in Cartavius. He submitted Martin Day, but it was a little questionable. It was like an accidental headbutt that rocked Martin Day, and then he snatched up his neck. So I don't really know if you want to count that. He has a few rear naked chokes on his record. Like he does have a semblance of a ground game. I know he left Bulldog MMA and went over to Team Alpha Male, which is with his archetype and his body type, a really good camp for him. Especially if you work. He's a short, stocky guy. If you're short and stocky, if you can learn to wrestle, that's your main feature. If you can strike, that's perfect. But someone like Joshua Van, I absolutely love Joshua Van, but he has no reach, and it's going to be an issue that he's not the greatest wrestler with his body type. Same thing with Tavares, but he's addressing it. He's at Team Alpha Male, all the credit to him. Tavares isn't a bad fighter. He's a pretty decent fighter. It's just as of right now, he's still kind of young in his career. I think CD is he's just a little better everywhere. And these two have already fought. Did CD get the knockout win? Yes. Was it a very, very, very early stoppage? Yeah, the fight should not have been stopped. However, CD still dropped him. Okay. So at the end of the day, CD was winning the fight before the ref jumped in. So if the fight continued, CD was not going to slow down. I've never seen him slow down in his fights. He has very good cardio. So at that point, if we would have continued to see the same thing that we saw for the first 3 minutes, CD would have won this fight. Here's the difference. it's in Canada now. So not only was he winning the fight, now he's going to have the crowd behind him in everything that he does. So I still think it's advantage CD. So the pick is going to be CD. The bet's going to be CD. Next fight of the night, we have one of the main proponents for Team Canada here. We have Charles Air Jourdain minus 190 going up against bony ass Sean Woodson at plus 145. Over 2.5 is minus 150. Under 2.5 at plus 120. Let's start with the Canadian and Charles Jourdain. He's Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, in my opinion. I've seen Charles Jourdain look phenomenal in wins and losses. I've seen him look sketchy in wins and losses. I saw him fight Nathaniel Wood and not look the greatest. I saw him fight Shane Burgos in a loss and look phenomenal. I've seen him fight Ron Gracie and look good. He looked good against Ricardo Ramos. I've seen him look a little sketchy against Andre Ewell. I saw him look very sketchy against Julian Erosa. I've seen him look sketchy against Marcelo Rojo and Andre Feely. Like he's all over the place. Like he can look great, he can look bad. The thing is, he's 27 years old and he's coming off of two good looking performances. So he's going to be in Canada, so he's going to be in his hometown. I think he's going to be a little hyped. I think we're going to see the good version of Charles Jourdain. He's going to have the crowd behind him. He has good jiu-jitsu. He has really good striking. He has really, really good cardio. He throws a ton of volume. He doesn't hit that hard. Most of his wins aren't by KO or anything. You see guillotines, decisions, guillotine, decision. He did get a finish over Rojo in round 3, but with 30 seconds left, it was just more attrition. Um, Choi, he did get a knockout. That was nice. So yeah, a lot of these are just submission wins or decision wins. He doesn't carry a ton of power. It's just he loves to move forward. It's just a matter of what version of him are you going to get. He's pretty durable. I've seen him rocked a few times, but never in serious jeopardy. So at the end of the day, he's a good jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's a black belt. He's a very good striker. His wrestling is where it struggles. His wrestling is god awful. He has like 40% takedown defense. It's very, very bad, and he doesn't hit very hard. Good news for him is that he's fighting Sean Woodson, who is a boxer. So not really much to worry about in the wrestling department. I know he showed it off in his last fight, but that was against someone on short notice, and it wasn't the same level of competition. And Dennis Bazooka, John Woodson is the scariest looking 145 pounder I've ever seen. The dude weighs 145 pounds and is 6'2". Like that's not normal. Look how bony he is. I cannot wait till he goes up like 2 weight classes. I feel a little uncomfortable whenever he fights because I mean I feel like one body shot would crumple him, one leg kick would just put him down. I have no idea how he makes 145, and he does it consistently. I don't know how he does it. And that does affect his gas tank a little bit. He will slow down in his fights. If you're cutting that much weight, that's justifiably so. His takedown defense used to be really bad, but it's improved. He's got a little decent sprawl with his bony hips on you now. Not terrible. Even his takedowns in general, again, he showed it off in his last fight, and his jujitsu's pretty sneaky. He's figured out that these tall, lanky arms do help you get chokes and triangles and darces. Like he goes for a lot of front chokes. And he's pretty solid at them, to be honest with you. But here's the biggest thing: 9-inch reach advantage. That's massive. That's huge. And he too throws a ton of volume. But you want to talk about not having power? My God, does this guy not hit hard? I mean, he couldn't knock out Julian Erosa. Juicy J has one of the worst chins in MMA history. And Juicy J said his punches didn't hurt, so that's concerning. He did have a flying knee over Terrence McKinney, but those bony ass knees are one thing. Outside of that, you just see decision. He lost via Darce decision. Knocked out Colin England, but that's not saying much. Decision. Like he has a ton of decisions on his record because he doesn't hit hard. I mean, look at the guy. Do you think this is going to knock anybody out? It's his bony ass knees that will catch you, but outside of that, no, he's not a power puncher. And he's a little chitty. I've seen him rocked multiple times. Luis Saldana rocked him very, very badly. I don't know why that fight continued. Um, Especially after he definitely got knocked out in that fight. And then Luis Saldana hit him with an illegal strike. And then they just continued the fight. That was an interesting decision. He got rocked by Juicy J as he was fading a little bit, but this guy can get rocked multiple times. Terrence McKinney rocked him. He just, yeah, it's not great. And if you cut that much weight, you are going to get tired. You're going to be a little chinny. So I don't know. Charles Jourdain doesn't hit that hard, but he breaks you with his attrition. So if anything, I think Charles is going to win this late. Initially, I thought Woodson was a pretty decent dog. I still do think he is. I can't lock Charles Jourdain. I do think Jourdain wins. I do see a world where Woodson wins. So what I'll do is I'll just take the over 2.5. Neither one of them hit particularly hard. It's minus 150 to the over 2.5. That's not bad. So the pick is going to be Charles Jourdain, but the bet's going to be the over 2.5. Next fight of the night, I'm putting my balls on the table. Something is screaming upset to me. It might be a little biased, but I don't know. Something is just screaming trust your balls, so I'm going to do it. We have the Canadian and Brad Katona / Ireland. I don't know if he's Canadian or Irish, or he's a little all over the place. But he's going to rep Canada here. Brad Katona minus 200 going up against Garrett Armfield at plus 165. Over 2.5 minus 180, under 2.5 at plus 140. Let's start with the quote unquote Canadian and Brad Katona. You want to talk about generalists? I don't like Brad Katona. I think he's very annoying. I think he's very conceited. I think he's very good. He doesn't do anything bad. He has 2 career losses. Hunter Ashore is actually a really good fighter. He just has some bad breaks and a little bit of a bad chin. But Hunter Ashore is a very good fighter. And his other loss is Merab Dvalishvili. So, I mean, what are you going to do? You lost to Merab and you lost to Hunter Adger. Those are really, really good losses. Cody Gibson's a decent little win. He has a lot of great wins that don't count towards his record. Timur Valiev is a great win, even though I thought he lost the fight. It was a very, very close battle. Carlos Veras, whatever. He Kyler Phillips and Bryce Mitchell in his first stint in the Ultimate Fighter. Those are 2 top 10 guys in their weight classes. Like, he has some really, really good wins, even on the regional scene. He went over to Russia, fought some scary Russians, and won. Like, he's good. Like, this kid is not bad anywhere. He is great everywhere. He has good cardio, good striking, high volume, good wrestling, decent jujitsu, high fight IQ, pretty durable. He's never been knocked out or finished. He just doesn't have a lot of power. He's a decisionator. He always goes into decision. On the flip side, we have Garrett Armfield, who I am infatuated by. I think Garrett Armfield's really good. I don't know why I think he's so good. He has 3 career losses, and 2 of them are to David Onama, so no shame there. And one of them was to David Onama on like 4 days' notice. And one of them was in the amateur scene, so I don't know if you count that. His other pro losses are to the aforementioned Mateo Vogel, who's really good and beat CD. And then he lost to Ronnie Lawrence, who's also in the UFC and very good. So he lost some 3 very, very credible people. He's at 6 at reach advantage here, and he has really good striking. Like, his striking is crisp. He was over at Killcliff FC for a little. I think he's with Marathon MMA now over with Trey Ogden. But I still think he spent some time at Killcliff. And you want to get real greasy. You know who's also at Killcliff? Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler, who trained Brad Katona in this last season of The Ultimate Fighter. He might have a little insider knowledge. I heard Michael Chandler usually just trains with like Usman and the top guys. But I know Michael Chandler hated Brad Katona. So if he can help one of his teammates beat Brad, I'm sure he will. Again, he has good losses. He'll have a 6-inch reach advantage here. He's just a very fast, clean striker. His grappling is where his deficiency is. All of his losses are because of his grappling. David Onama took him down and submitted him. Mateo Vogel took him down and submitted him. Ronnie Lawrence took him down a bazillion times and won the fight. That's how he loses. But he's durable. He's never been knocked out. He has really good fight IQ himself, and he displays it all of the time. So at the end of the day, it turns into on the feet, I think it's 50-50. And I think Armfield strikes are a little crisper, a little faster, and he definitely hits harder. He's a finisher. He has 9 career wins, and 8 of them are by knockout. Or are by finish. Like, he has 1 decision win on his record. So he has 9 wins and 8 of them are by finish. He's the finisher. He hits harder. He hits faster. He's very good and slept on. No one knows how good this kid really is. But Katona's a motherfucker. Katona's so good. Katona should win this fight. I was close to locking Katona, but then something in my gut is screaming Armfield can win this fight. So I'm gonna trust it. Put your balls on the table, baby. I'm gonna pick Katona, but my money's gonna be on Armfield. I think the line's off. I think it's ridiculous. And if anything, if you really want to play it safe, you take the over. Neither one of these men have ever been finished in a professional fight by knockout. So I would probably just take the over 2.5. Katona's not really subbing anyone. So I would take the over 2.5 if you want to stay safe. But if you want to get risky, bet Garrett Armfield. All right, next fight of the night, I am going to lock an individual. We have Mazar Evloev at -200 going up against Arnold Allen at +165. Over 2.5 is -360. Under 2.5 at +260. Let's start with the British guy. There's no Canadian in this matchup in Arnold Allen. Arnold Allen is someone that I've been trying to fade for a while. I don't think he's that great. He has pretty decent striking. He hits decently hard, but he has very low volume. He can slow down in his fights. His cardio's not that good. His jiu-jitsu is okay. It's not good. It's not bad. Same with his wrestling. He has a 70% takedown defense. It's not good. It's not bad. But I will say 75%. But looking at the guys that he fought, it shouldn't be. Max Holloway doesn't wrestle. Kelvin Cater doesn't wrestle. Dan Hooker doesn't wrestle. Sadiq Yusuf doesn't wrestle. Nick Lentz does. Gilbert Melendez does, but that was old Gilbert. So who the fuck is taking him down? I mean, he fought Mads Burnell, who's not that good of a fighter, got taken down 6 times. Makwan Americani has been cut from the promotion. He won a split decision because Makwan took him down with ease. Like, he's not a good wrestler. It doesn't have good takedown defense. It shows a good number, but he's fighting nothing but strikers that are trying to take him down. And the few wrestlers that did face him took him down like 6 times. So his wrestling is not good. That number is skewed. All in all, he's a tall, lanky striker, and he's a pretty decent striker. I will give him that. Just not enough volume. And at the end of the day, not good enough cardio. He does train at TriStar. So if they announce training out of Canada, the crowd might give him a little pop. He's going to be like the adopted Canadian in this matchup. But I don't think it matters because he's fighting Mazar Evloev, who there's only 2 men at 145. Three. I think there's 3 men at 145 that can beat Volk. I will still say Max, because I thought Max won the second fight. I think Ilya Taporia can beat Volk, and I think Mazar Evloev can beat Volk. Mazar's good. I mean, he's a scary Russian who's in his prime at 29 years old, and he's 17-0. Like, this guy is insane. Wrestling top notch. He's an American Top Team, which is one of the top gyms. And it's scary because now at Top Team, his striking is starting to catch up to his wrestling. His striking's very good. The last time we saw him, he was in that barn burner with Diego Lopez. Now we know how good Diego Lopez is. We know how hard he hits. We know how good his jiu-jitsu is. He is subbing literally everyone in like 30 seconds. He could not sub Mazar Evloev. So Evloev, I've seen put himself in a lot of precarious submissions. Like, he will leave his head in a guillotine and get it stuck and somehow get out of it. We saw it against Mike Grundy. We saw it against Diego Lopez. He puts himself in bad situations, but just gets the W. That's what he does. His cardio is good. I've seen it look shaky one time against Stan Ige. But outside of that, his cardio looks very good. He's very durable. Again, he's never been finished. He's 17-0. He's never fucking lost. His main training partner is Peter Yan, for fuck's sake. At the end of the day, this guy is an absolute monster. He is a scary Russian, and he's here to eat Arnold Allen's lunch, and I think he's going to. So the pick is going to be Evloev. Don't overthink it. Bet Evloev at -200. That line's off. It should be higher. All right, next fight of the night is what I'm confused with. We have the Canadian Marc-Andre Burria going up against the Action Man, Chris Curtis. Over under sitting at Chris Curtis is -200. Marc-Andre Burria at +165. Over under at 2.5. Over 2.5 is -160. Under 2.5 is +125. Let's start with the Canadian and Marc-Andre Burria. He is okay striking. His cardio is what he usually uses and weaponizes. He will drown you in the cardio department. He'll obviously have the crowd behind him, and he's seemingly pretty durable. I know he got knocked out against Chidi in like one strike, but Chidi and Jaquani hits extremely hard. Barrio has really high volume. Not good wrestling, really, to be honest with you, and not really a ton of power. He used to knock everyone out, but don't forget that he is someone that got popped for the sauce. And ever since it's been clean, Marc-Andre Barrio, he did get knocked out once, and he hasn't really been knocking anyone out. He's been going to a lot of decisions or winning a war in attrition and getting a late finish in the third round. So he is not the same fighter off the juice. This jiu-jitsu is okay. But the big thing I noticed with Marc-Andre Barrio is that he's a good hammer, bad nail. If you back him up, he doesn't know how to fight going backwards. He can't do it. I've seen it in the Eric Anders fight. The few times Eric Anders went forward, he dominated. I saw it in the Chidi fight. Chidi just went out there and head kicked the shit out of him, and he just crumbled. Anthony Hernandez continually wrestled and pressured forward, and he crumbled and eventually got finished. He cannot fight going backwards. If you go forward, you're gonna break him. He can't handle it. Here's the problem: he's fighting Chris Curtis, who is a counter striker. He doesn't go forward, so this is going to be very interesting, especially because Marc-Andre Barrio's biggest weapon is his cardio. Chris Curtis has better cardio. I've never seen Chris Curtis even breathe heavy. Like, this dude does not get tired. Don't get me wrong; he's 36 years old, so I know his time is starting to come to an end. And he's actually a welterweight. He's not a true middleweight. He just doesn't want to cut weight anymore, mainly because he's 36 years old. He said he knows he only has another year or two left in his career. He wants to fight as often as possible and make as much money as he can. So he's not cutting weight. He's not cutting weight so he can accept short notice fights. And that's what you saw. He got hurt and then he had to stop doing that. But he was taking short notice fight after short notice fight. He fought Brendan Allen on short notice, Phil Hawes on short notice, Jack Hermanson on short notice. He was fighting everyone he could on short notice, just jumping in so he could get a paycheck. The main training partners with the current champion and Sean Strickland. He has great cardio, but best cardio in some of the best cardio in the weight class. Good striking, hits extremely hard. He's going to have a 1.5 inch reach advantage here. He's fought a who's who in the division. Great takedown defense. Has only been taken down one time in his entire UFC career. Um, Everything is good here. Like, he's probably the better striker. Marc-Andre is not going to be able to take him down. So the jiu-jitsu doesn't even matter. So it comes down to who's the better striker. And the concern is Chris Curtis will let you punch him so that he can land a good counter. Like, he is more than happy to fight going off his back foot. Marc-Andre looks much better when he's going forward, and I think Chris is going to allow him to do so. So it's, can Chris catch him and put him out? I don't know. Like, you can crack Barrio now that he's off the sauce, but I don't want to trust a counter striker in enemy territory. It seems like a setup. Chris Curtis is the better fighter. If he uses the right fight IQ, he's going to come out here, he'll march forward, and he will kill Marc-Andre Barrio. But that's not the way he fights, and he's a little hard-headed. I love Chris Curtis. I love the action man. He's won me a ton of money. I think he's a funny dude. Um, but he's a little stubborn. I'm stubborn myself, and he's stubborn. Please go forward, Chris Curtis. Please march forward. You will knock this dude out. If you counter strike like you like to do, you can still catch him. But Marc-Andre's in his hometown. If he outvolumes you, you could see a sketchy decision. So the pick is going to be Chris Curtis. Bet's going to be the over 2.5. I'll just go ahead and bite the bullet with the over. I think this goes to the judges. Next fight of the night is another guy I'm trying to fade, but you got to fade at the right time. We have the Canadian Mike Malott minus 355 going against Neil Magny at plus 280. Over 2.5 is plus 165. Under 2.5 at minus 215. Let's start with the Canadian and Mike Malott. This dude used to fight at 145. I don't know how. He's a massive 170 pounder, so I don't know how he made it to 145. But he was definitely drained. We talked about people that cut way too much weight and it affecting their durability. He got knocked out by Hakeem Dawodu because his gas tank was that bad and his chin was that bad at 145. He was knocking everyone out, finishing everyone because he's massive, but it was too much weight. He took a break and he retired. That's scary. I don't like when people retire. But since he came back up 2 weight classes at 170, he's been an absolute killer. The dude is good striking. He has world-class jiu-jitsu. He has pretty decent wrestling. He trained over at Team Alpha Male to work on his wrestling. He's going to have the crowd behind him in Canada. He's their favorite fighter right now. He's Canadian. He's Canada's favorite fighter right now. My mate, and all of his wins are by finish. Like he doesn't go to decision. First round, first round, first round, first round. The major problem is even in this majority draw, he won the early rounds and got absolutely pieced up in the third. He has bad cardio, and he's addressed his cardio. He has said he has bad cardio, and he worked on it, and he's fixed it. I don't know, because the furthest we've seen him in the UFC, round 1 minute into round two. We don't know how good his cardio is. And that's concerning going against someone with Neil Magny. Neil Magny sucks now. I'll be honest with you. I like Neil. I think he's a great guy. I hope he gets custody of his kids back. But at the end of the day, he's father time is undefeated, and Neil is 35 or sorry 36 years old. But in fight years, he's like 46. Like the dude fights all the fucking time. And the one thing he still has is cardio. He doesn't have good striking. It's okay. He doesn't really have great wrestling anymore, and he's only rocking a 55% takedown defense. That's not a good look. His jiu-jitsu is only okay, but he's gonna have a 7-inch reach advantage. He's seemingly pretty durable. You don't really knock out Neil Magny. Santiago Ponzinibbio did. Um, Ian Machado Gary dropped him a few times. But what you see are Gilbert Burns took him down and submitted him. Shavkat took him down and submitted him. That Michael Chiesa took him down and held him down. Like that's what you're seeing. You're seeing him get out grappled rather than get knocked out. Rafael Dos Anjos took him down and submitted him. So yeah, you're mainly seeing him getting takedown and choked out. Can Malott do that? Yeah, probably. But if he wants to strike and look good in front of his Canadian crowd, if he doesn't knock Neil out, I'm really scared he can gas himself out. I'm petrified. He goes out there, hits extremely hard, cracks Neil, even rocks Neil a few times, and then goes out there and just gasses out adrenaline dumps because he does not have good cardio. I'm telling you right now, if this thing hits a second round, I will be forced to live bet Neil Magny because those odds are going to be fucking ridiculous. So I'm not going to sit back, relax in this fight. I'm staring at that under 2.5, but it's minus 215. Fuck that. I think I'm going to live bet Neil. I'm going to pick Mike Malott. Mike Malott, if anything, is probably going to get a submission win. But I think I'm gonna get crazy. This card's just wild. I think I'm gonna wait, not bet it, and then live bet Neil Magny if he's alive in round two. So I'm gonna pick him a lot. I'm gonna live bet Neil if he's still surviving in the second round. Then that takes us to the first of our championship matchups. We have my girl Rocky Pennington at plus 135 going up against Myro Bueno Silva at minus 160. Over 4.5 is minus 125. Under 4.5 at minus 105. There's no Canadian in this matchup. America's the next closest. So let's start with my girl Rocky. The reason I keep calling her my girl is because she has been winning me money left and right. Rocky is on a 4-fight, 5-fight winning streak, and I've made money on her all 5 fights. She is cashing after cashing after cashing. She's not great, to be honest with you. She's not the world's best fighter, but she's dirty boxing extraordinaire. She's kind of like a female Randy Couture. He was not a good striker, but he is very good with clinching and just getting some uppercuts and hitting you with the few like 1-2s, and that's about it on the feet. Very, very simplistic striking that seemingly works for her. For some reason, it works for her. She'll intentionally try to shoot takedowns, but she doesn't really go too hard for them. She just does it to push you against the cage. And then dirty box. She loves to dirty box. Her jujitsu's okay. It's not good. It's not bad. It's all right. She's 35 years old, so she's at the very tail end of her career. If she loses here, she's probably going to have to retire because she's not getting another title shot. This is it. It is do or die for her, and I like that in this matchup. I think she has a fire under her. She just had a daughter with her partner Tisha Torres, who's also in the UFC. She's doing it for them. She's doing it for her daughter. She's ready to go out there and finally complete the story. She's awfully durable, doesn't really get knocked out. Amanda Nunes finished her in round 5. And I mean, Nunes hits like a truck. So making it to round 5 against Nunes is impressive. And those are her losses. Her losses are good losses. Holly Holm is a great striker, former champion. Jermaine Durandamine, good striker, former champion. Amanda Nunes, great striker, former champion. Like Jessica Andrade, former champion. Holly Holm again, former champion. Kat Zingano, fought for a title. not a champion. And Leslie Smith, that one did not age well. But all the rest of her losses are to literal champions. Like she doesn't lose to scrubs. Now her wins, a little sketchy. Ketlin Vieira is a great win. Do I think she won that fight? I don't know. I think it was 50-50. She was a dog. I rocked with her because she's been winning for me, and she came through again. I fucking love Rocky Pennington. That was pretty close. Aspen Ladd, she definitely beat, but Ladd's not the greatest. Macy Chason is getting slept on. She's not bad. But I mean, it's an okay win. Patty Kianza's an okay win. Marion Renault is like 80, not the greatest win. Irene Aldana, that aged well. That's a good win. So she Misha Tate, I mean, she's a former champ, beat her. And she won the rematch against Jessica Andrade. So I don't know. She's okay. She has some okay wins on her record, but all of her losses are pretty good. 63% takedown defense. I hope that gets a little better. But she has good cardio, and all in all, every single fight she's in is extremely close. Never has she had a fight where you go in and say she clearly won. Never had she had a loss where you said she clearly lost, aside the ones where she got knocked out. Just like Nunez. But even the Holly Holm fight was a split decision. Like everything's always super, super close with her. On the other side, we have Myra Bueno Silva. I made fun of Rocky's wins. God, Myra Bueno Silva's wins are awful. Like they're really bad. First and foremost, she's a 125-pounder who decided she's not cutting weight anymore and she's going up to 135. Since she's been at 135, she's beaten Holly Holm and then tested positive for roids and is getting a fight after. It makes no sense. She tested positive for the sauce, so that's literally a no contest. She beat Lena Landsberg, who is literally a 40-year-old mother, and she beat Stephanie Egger in that weird phantom tap where we're not too sure if Egger actually tapped or not. It was kind of weird, and Egger's not even that great to begin with. So, yeah, those are her wins at 135. That doesn't exactly scream throw me in there for a title and be a favorite. The last time she fought someone that was probably a better striker than her was Manon Farrow. He beat the shit out of her. Like that wasn't particularly close. Marina Moroz was able to take her down and ground her and beat her down that way. So we've seen her outstruck. We've seen her out grappled. Montana De La Rosa went to a draw with her because Bueno Silva lost a point. And she slowed down a little bit in that last round. And Montana clearly won round 3. So I don't know, man. She has okay cardio. It doesn't look bad. I've seen her slow down before, but I've never seen her go 5 rounds before. That's new territory to her. Rocky's gone 5 rounds before. Silva does have pretty good striking, but I think it's a wash, to be honest with you. Jiu-jitsu is good. Silva has very, very good jiu-jitsu. That is not a wash. She is the better jiu-jitsu practitioner. Problem is she can't wrestle. So she's very hittable on the feet. She has a shoot a box style where they kind of let you hit them, march forward, march you down, and hit you. But Rocky just fought that in Ketlin Vieira, who kind of has a shoot a box style and is from Brazil. And she won. It was a split decision. It was very close, but she won. And Ketlin Vieira is a bigger, stronger version of Silva. Silva's not that physically imposing. She was a former 125-pounder. She's extremely durable, but I think this is going to be a classic Rocky fight. It's going to be someone marching forward, willing to eat her 1-2s, and Rocky slipping in and out and getting clipped herself a few times. And it's going to be a close back and forth battle. The number is going to be close. And generally, Rocky wins these split decisions. Do I think she's going to do it again? I don't know. If anything, I'm just going to take the over 4.5 at -125. I think you're getting a bargain there. I don't think either one is finishing the other one. So the pick is going to be Rocky. I'm going to keep rocking with Rocky. And honestly, I like the over 4.5, but I'm just going to pick Rocky again. Let's just stick with my girl. She's won 5 straight. I'm not turning my back on her now. And then that takes us to the main event. If for whatever weird reason you have not hit that like button, hit the like, hit the subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok. Make sure you follow everywhere on social media. We have the main event. We have Sean Strickland at -135 going against Driscus Du Plessis at +115. Over under sitting at 1.5. Over 1.5 is -240. Under 1.5 at +180. Let's start with the Canadian. Oh, wait, there is no Canadian. So let's start with the American and Sean. You know what? No. Let's start with Driscus. Let's start with the challenger, Driscus Du Plessis. He is okay striking. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just he hits very hard. It's not super technical. He fancies himself a striker, but it's not super technical. His wrestling's okay, but he throws a lot of garbage. Like he hit Rob Whittaker with a head and arm, and I'm gonna have a little personal bias. I'm so pissed he beat our boy Rob. Everyone's mad at DDP for beating Rob. Everyone outside of one person I know loves Robert Whittaker, but Driscus went out there and beat that ass. There's nothing we can say. He dropped him. We knew Rob has one kryptonite and it's his chin, and Driscus found it. The dude hits hard. Credit where credit is due. I mean, his jiu-jitsu's sneaky good. No one talks about it. His jiu-jitsu's not bad. He's pretty good on the ground. Driscus is actually a pretty decent fighter. The biggest problem with Driscus is his cardio. He slows down in all of his fights. And when you look at his run to the title, yes, he beat the Reaper, give the man a title shot. But outside of Robert Whittaker, he beat an aging Derek Brunson who can't go more than one round. He beat Darren Till, who quit after the fight because he's so bad. Brad Tavares is like 90 years old in fight years. He beat Trevin Giles, who's now a welterweight, and Marcus Perez, who got cut after the fight. So where are his good wins? Yes, again, he beat Robert Whittaker. I understand that is the best win you can get at middleweight. But outside of that, his other UFC wins are against people that are honestly Derek Brunson, not in the promotion. Darren Till, not in the promotion. Brad Tavares, one loss from getting cut. Trevin Giles down a weight class, and Marcus Perez no longer in the promotion. He's not beating anyone good. Like that's the only problem I have with DDP. He beat who they put in front of him, and he's finishing who they put in front of him. It's just they put trash in front of him. So I don't know. He's a decent fighter. I'll take nothing against him. He seems like a nice guy. I don't hate the guy. But I think he's a little overrated. On the flip side, I kind of feel the same about Sean Strickland. I don't think Sean Strickland's that great. Is he world champion? Absolutely. Do I think he's the best middleweight in the world? No, I think some of these Bellator guys would whoop his ass. But where Sean Strickland is great is his cardio. He's the definition of weaponized cardio. He's fought a great schedule of competition. He has the best cardio in the weight class. He has really good striking. He has sneaky good jiu-jitsu himself. So I do not see Driscus submitting Sean. Sean has a really, really, really good ground game. He just doesn't use it because he doesn't wrestle. And he doesn't have to wrestle because he has 84% takedown defense. He's very hard to take down. So I don't think Driscus is going to be able to take him down. I don't think Driscus is going to be able to submit him. Driscus is going to have to knock him out. Can you knock out Sean Strickland? Yeah. Sean Strickland has 5 career losses, and he's been knocked out against Alex Pereira. He got knocked out against Zaleski. Come out losing decision. Okay, so he's been knocked out in about half of his losses. So you can either grapple fuck him or you can knock him out. Those are the two ways to beat Sean Strickland. But Sean Strickland loves to move forward, and that's the thing. So does Driscus. These two are going to collide. And if Driscus does not put him out when they go forward, he's going to break. Sean's going to keep going forward. You talking about stubborn people like Chris Curtis. Sean Strickland's even more stubborn. He is not going to back down. He did not take down Alex Pereira because he wanted to strike with him. Like he's the definition of hard-headed. These two are going to clash. If DDP doesn't get that finish, he's in a world of trouble. And I think he'll break early. I don't hate the under in this matchup, mainly because either DDP is gonna just break nutritionally or Sean Strickland's face is gonna break. I don't like that it's 1.5. I don't like that line. But if so, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick Sean Strickland, but I'm gonna bet an alt line, and I'm probably gonna bet like 3.5 and kind of call it. It's not gonna be a terrible line there because the 1.5 is plus 180. So the 3.5 is probably gonna be not too bad. Take that. So the pick is gonna be Sean Strickland. The bet's gonna be an alt line of under 3.5. And that's UFC 297. It's a big card, big Canadian card. Could be a fun card. We get a little break after this one and then like 5 or 6 straight weeks. So enjoy this card. Enjoy your week break. And then let's get after it and let's make money, baby. Let's get it.